We are wrapping up our series this evening on change and transformation. So we've been talking about the art and science of change. How do we do it? What makes it easy? What makes it hard? What are the common barriers and challenges to creating lasting change? And then we also looked at habits. What are they from a neural programming perspective, the science behind it, how our brains work, taking 21 days on average to change a habit, and also looked at why the massive radical approach to change is far more effective than the incremental approach. And then last time was all about another common barrier to change, which is how we sabotage ourselves, and really that being a product of how we look at failure, how we most people are motivated by avoiding failure versus maintaining speed, which is going to be again one of your things to keep in mind here tonight as we're talking about how do we maintain momentum, how do we stay the course. And then also we finished up with re-anchoring the excitement on the goal or the thing that the vision that we're trying to implement, the thing that we're making changes for. So tonight I want to talk about, again, I think it's helpful to look at some of the common things that we find with clients, with people as they are dealing with making changes, as they are implementing, let's say, a coaching program here and working on new software, implementing new thought patterns, taking new actions. One of the things that we find is what we call the mid-phase challenge. And time after time, again, we see people that come in, go through a program, whether it's, a few sessions in, most people engage the process, they engage the tools, they engage the system right away. They understand that this is something new that they haven't experienced before. They see how it's different from things they've experienced in the past, whether it's traditional therapy, whether it's another personal development program. They know that there's something different, and they will create, usually at least a little bit of results, but mostly a lot of results initially. They'll see pretty drastic changes starting to take place when they engage the system, and they will create significant success because the thing is, the tools work. There's no debate about that. This is a science. This is a tools-based system. This is not just rah-rah motivation, and positive thinking. This is going to the heart of how you think, how you create reality. The tools are the tools. Just as a saw is designed to saw wood, it has its function. You put the saw on the wood, you go back and forth, it'll saw the wood. Now, it may be dull, it may need some sharpening, you may need to learn how to use it more efficiently, but the tool is going to perform its function. The tools work. So when you engage the tools and you start to see these changes and you're seeing the results, and speed is picking up, as we talked about last time, again, we see this step back, or this mid-phase challenge, as we call it. And there's a lot of different reasons to that, and we've covered some of those already in the first few calls in this series, but whether it's consolidation, and this can be for good and bad reasons, or towards or away reasons, whether it's you're now at new heights and you just take a step back and you're just amazed at the level of results and the success that's coming your way, and you're just consolidating in this new arena. Now that's the towards pattern, and consolidation also happens because you're now in a very foreign place. You're out of your comfort zone. you know, it's a very scary place to be. Fear is rising, you know, and so hey, whoa, let's take a step back here. Let's I'm way out of my comfort zone. Speed is way too high for me. I need to put the foot on the brake a little bit, and in large part that's due to, you know, new fears that now appear, fears that old you didn't have. So, you know, you may overcome some fear that has plagued you for a very long time, and that's that significant change, that benefit, that success that you see, but now new part of the mountain, something that you couldn't even conceive of as old you. There's new fears that start to arise, and it could also be your top 6 is a reason for the mid-phase challenge, and that's when you take the top 6 people that you spend the most time with and you average that, guess what you find? You find yourself. You know, so we like to surround ourselves with people that are doing a little bit better than us, maybe some people that aren't doing as well as certain areas because we feel great about ourselves. Generally, you're going to find you're an average of the top 6 people, and that's the people that you consciously spend your time with, right? It could be a spouse, friends. I'm not talking about the person that was, you know, maybe randomly assigned to the cubicle next to you. But the top 6 people you consciously spend the most time with. And why this becomes a source or a trigger for a mid-phase challenge is because, you know, as you start to accelerate and you're having success, you're on scary parts of a new mountain, they look at you and they say, whoa, hey, you know, slow down, be careful. And that's for good reasons. They care about you. They don't want you to be hurt, but it also says something about now their fears, because they see you accelerating. They feel maybe your fear rising, and as you start to, you know, create this success, now they're running their risk loss success equations as well. That says, well, now I have to pick up speed. I have to keep up, and I don't know if I can deal with these new fears that come along. So the top 6 is a very common factor as to why we see people can put their foot on the brake, start to slow down. And this also goes well with the thermostat effect, because we know this phenomenon. We covered this in our Psychology of Wealth content a month or 2 months ago, where because we have a very comfortable temperature that we live at, and that's a temperature for your health, your money, your love, the minute you get outside of that comfort zone, right, we got to dial the thermostat to when it gets too hot, we got to bring it back down. Gets too low, bring it back up, you know. And so if you have this range of, you make 80,000 to, you know, 100,000 a year, and you go over that range. Now most people think, hey, that would be awesome. I'd love that. I'd love more than 100,000. Yeah, no. Subconsciously, psychologically, that is an uncomfortable place to be. So you'll bring it back down. You know, so we find this phenomenon happen in multiple arenas of life, and it's another common example of the mid-phase challenge, and so many other more reasons. Again, we've covered more in previous calls, and it really differs and is unique for each person, and we can take a look at that if this is something you feel that you're wrestling with. But for many other reasons, you know, they peter out after some initial success, some initial momentum. And so here's something to consider. You know, William James says, and I don't know if William James actually said this. You never know what the internet, you don't know if you can trust this, but someone said most people never run far enough on their first win to find out they've got a second. And I just realized I'm writing along and I don't have my screen showing.
I thought I didn't interrupt you.
Sorry, folks. Let me get this up here. You wouldn't. I don't know if you'd be able to tell, but.
Yeah, I didn't know if it was hidden from me or something.
Colette, Kate, Kathy, where were you? I was writing along, and you're just watching me look up and down.
No, I've been taking notes too.
Okay, good excuse now. Sorry about that. So now you should be able to see my screen. So this quote here: most people never run far enough on their first win to find out they've got a second. And you hear stories about people, quitting a business, quitting a relationship, quitting something before, right before things really get better. But this is what we find a lot. It's very common. Clients here, most people don't go far enough on their initial run at new software, to find out that they've got that second wind. And you know what that is, whether it was, way back in PE class in elementary school. You hit this moment where like it's a blast of energy out of nowhere, and you're like you push past this perceived barrier that's there. So why do people fall out of the process? And by process I mean specifically here at the Inevitable You, but this also applies to your process of whatever you're working on, the change that you're implementing, your new software that you're installing. It's for both good reasons and challenging ones. And some of that depends on what their outcomes are here. And we have 3 primary segments. Now, I'm not going to cover this in depth today, but when you look at the outcomes section of the Model of the World, the very first question in our very first intake, worksheet here, looking at and capturing the mental software, is what do you want? Why are you here? What are your outcomes? Is it pain you want to overcome? A vision you want to implement? Precise segments are you want something very specific, and these are both towards and away as well. And I forgot to mention, very important point here. The second wind is the towards pattern of the mid-phase challenge. The mid-phase challenge is the away pattern focused on avoiding pain. The second wind is you're in the towards pattern pursuing the pleasure, pursuing what you want. Now, in these 3 segments, it's both towards and away as well, because you could have a very specific thing that you want to eliminate out of your life, a pain point you want to eliminate, or a very specific, outcome you want in a towards pattern for your relationship or your health. It can be incremental, and that's all tides, or the tide lifts all boats in the harbor. It's a holistic, you have an improvement across all arenas. And then there's the elite crowd. These are the leaders, these are the best of the best. They want to be in the 1% club. We have examples of that. Your Peyton Mannings, your, Bruno Mars, I don't know. Whoever your favorite rock stars are, because that's really what this crowd is. For success-based people, what we call the rock stars, they know that this is a never-ending process. It doesn't end when you meet a specific outcome, or your tide is lifted to a certain level, or that your eliteness ends somewhere. It's a never-ending process. It's a version, the greatest version of yourself, and that's exciting. And 2020 leads to 2021, 2022, and so on. You don't stop upgrading software, just like Windows doesn't stop coming out with new versions of software. It's a constant and never-ending improvement process. So, when you think about the fact that who is punished more, those who don't know and don't do, and those who know and don't do. Who's punished more? And by know, you get this, you know that it's a never-ending process. You're focused on greatness and focused on your outcomes. You want what you want. You want this change that you're implementing. You know the technology. You know that it's never done, and you're always upgrading and improving. Yeah, if you know that and you're not doing, think about it. And if you get the law of attraction, if you know and you're not asking or forcing growth on a continual, consistent basis, doesn't that really mean that what you're requesting is the negative consequences? So we've talked about this, you're running a risk-loss equation. If you get to that point of consolidation and now you don't want to lose what you've accomplished and achieved, or lose something of where you got. And just like holding on to a handful of sand, the tighter you squeeze, the faster that the sand falls out. So, and isn't above average, a worse enemy to great? When you think about it, you may have heard the expression, good is the enemy of great. If that's true, what would above average be? Most people say, well, if I go from good, to above average, then to great, intuitively that you think that it's a less enemy. No, it's more of an enemy, because the minute that you stop pushing and forcing and requesting more of you and greatness, and you settle on above averageness, yeah, that's a worse enemy to greatness. Just as, the I have a nightmare speech, as we've talked about, bad is less of an enemy, because at least, if there's something going wrong in your life, you're going to be motivated to fix it and, maybe get to great. But if you get complacent, if you get comfortable, that's your hint, that's your cue that you might be in a mid-phase challenge. You might be, not requesting more growth. So, complacency, as part of this mid-phase challenge that occurs, well, what does it mean? We love words and language here. Words have very specific meanings. Showing contentment or uncritical satisfaction with oneself or one's achievements. Yeah, content sounds nice on its face, but if you get uncritical and you're no longer looking at, what's going well, what's not going well, why isn't it going well, what do I have to think and believe in order to, get to where I'm wanting to go, if you're not taking that critical, examination, so on one hand, yeah, it's great to be satisfied and appreciate and celebrate all you have. We preach that. And it's also okay to not be totally satisfied or continue to want more. And why would you want to do that? Why would you want to force yourself to continue to grow? Well, and at what pace? Again, it goes back to a common sentence we hear, isn't good enough? Why do I have to be great, Brian? Why do I have to continue pushing? Well, above averageness, good, it's not a judgment, it's not a shame on you, bad, you stupid, you it's why wouldn't you want the highest levels of the things that you want? Love, health, money. Why wouldn't you want that? It's going to have, the answer to that is going to have its origins in some kind of old software, old family of origin software, old, trying to hold on to what you got, back to those risk loss equations. And you've heard it before. If you aren't growing, you're dying. Is that your request? Is that what you want? And so you might say, but I am growing. Look, I'm growing a little bit here and some there. And the question is, at what pace are you growing? We talked about level 10, Mach 1 speed last time. So when you look at the pace, is it Mach 1? Can you even do Mach 3? Why would you want that? Because we know we don't grow when things are easy. We grow when we face challenges. So as you pick up speed and you're way out of your comfort zone, you're on parts of the mountain you've never been before, and you're encountering new challenges, you're failing more, as we talked about, fear is rising. Yeah, that's when we grow. We don't grow when it's just all easy and, hey, I've made it, I'm above average, no more challenges, I made it, I'm good. No challenges means there's something off here. You're not accelerating at a high pace that you're capable of, because no race car makes headway in the straightaways. It's only in the curves that you accelerate or make progress on the cars ahead of you and win the race, when everyone else is focused on not crashing. Another metaphor that we love, sailing, you don't win in the tailwinds because everyone's going just as fast as the wind's going, right? You win the races in the headwind. How well you can cut your sail against those in the 10 moments and those challenges. So is pace about accelerating in the curve? How you cut your sail to the headwind? So remember, only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go. Or the struggle that you're in today is developing the strength you need for tomorrow. And I'm really bringing these up because this has been a common theme, for not just with clients, personally, and I think it's something that was brought up last time about, is being challenged or is failing more or, not feeling good at something, does that mean you're not level 10 or you're not, in flow? No, I think it's the exact opposite. It's demanding the best of you to show up. It's the times where, it is flow when you think about it, because greatest version of you demands the greatest challenges, the greatest headwinds, the greatest, obstacles. So to continue to reach and fight just as you would in this moment at this level for each breath, to strive to be more, to want more, to be the greatest version of you each and every day. Be as much as you can today. Put the level 10 effort and never be complacent. The minute that you feel settling, consolidation, that's a hint. Old software's starting to kick in, because remember, it's built on safety, it's built on comfort. So absolutely remember this, to continue to reach, to want more, constantly and never endingly improve. Do this work. This is forever work. Constantly be making upgrades, because it's based on what you want. back to our original point, it's not even about, oh, I have to change this or I have to sacrifice that. No, you just want what you want. And you do everything you can to get it. So I'll finish with one last quote by the master himself, Steve Jobs. My job's not to be easy on people. My job is to make them better. And that's not about me. I mean, it is a quote about the work we do here. A lot of times it's more pain that gets people to be the greatest versions of themselves. But for you specifically, your job is not to be easy, on yourself or to request easy. It's to be better, to show up in times of intense challenge, as the greatest version of you. And that's what pushes you past these, mid-phase challenges when things start to get tough, because the counterintuitive thing is when you have a breakthrough and you're implementing new software, it doesn't get easy. Failure doesn't go down. Fear doesn't go down. All those things are rising, and it's how well you cut into the headwind.